Marketing Etc. takes you into topics and trends in business with a marketing view lens. Join your host, Tokwe Ayedu, a multicultural and multi-industry marketing and business leader, as he dives into his vast and diverse network to go into conversation with thought leaders and experts in business and marketing. Listen to Marketing Etc. on your favorite podcast platform and watch on YouTube.
It was the management guru Pt2 who said marketing encompasses the entire business. It is the whole business seen from the point of view of its final result, that is, from the customer's point of view. This is the philosophy I subscribe to.
Today on Marketing Etc.
On the last episode of Marketing Etc., I started a conversation about the beauty industry with my guest, Janet Milner Walker, founder and director of Bespoke Advantage. We continue the conversation on sustainability, innovation, and the rise of the independent beauty brands on this episode. Thank you. Yeah, so I know I interjected your trailer, but if I could bring another thing which is related to this is the question of you did say that one area of sustainability and environment consciousness and responsibility is related to packaging. You mentioned 120 billion units of plastic. So we know that's one side. And then the other side is the ingredients that you definitely cannot recycle. Are we seeing the industry, and players in the industry trying to use less of these unrecyclable ingredients because there's something they are going to end up in the waters of your makeup you wipe with the wipes and all of that they can do nothing about that. Are we seeing a trend where less of these are being used?
Yes, absolutely. So there's things like glitter in cosmetics, which we obviously, and there are micro beads and obviously your facial washes that we're doing away with. Things like, as we all know, facial wipes. So all of these different areas, and also some of the ingredients that we use in shampoos and in conditioners and in body lotion, body washes. So removing some of those that we don't need. So this is actually the trend called clean beauty, where we look across the beauty industry and start eliminating this. And retailers themselves have taken a stand in this. So when they're looking at the brands that they're introducing into their stores, they want to look for brands that are doing their utmost to support this as well. So to ensure that they're not introducing these ingredients, and that they're also not introducing developing products that can't be that are not sustainable and that can't be recycled. So it hasn't just affected the packaging, it's, as you say, Topi, it's affected the ingredients themselves. And the other thing we've also looked at in terms of formulations and ingredients is waterless formulations. Because of the amount of water we use to be able to develop a lot of these formulations, a new trend has emerged, which is all about waterless formulations, so reducing the amount of water we use to be able to produce products.
Now, there's a little bit of controversy here that I want to bring up. So I'll read this quote, and then I'll tell you who said that, and then I want to hear your view of that. If the entire industry switched to organic and natural materials, it will be a problem for the health and for food sources. Now, this was said by Alessandra Keith, the CEO of Procter & Gamble Beauty.
Well, I guess so. If you elaborate more on that, because I'm sure there was more behind that comment that he shared.
Yeah. So basically, what he was trying to say, and where they're pushing this conversation, because I don't want to quote anyone out of context, but they're pushing this conversation is that look, if bigger companies, the major brands, all have to. They have to be sustainable, but that if they have to go more for the kind of sustainability we're talking about, because of the scale of their production. If fails, other sectors could be affected, because if they have to push the farmers to only do this stuff for the beauty industry, which you have also now added wellness entirely. If we have to push farmers to only do this one, it's going to have effect on the amount of food crops they will also be growing. So it kind of, this concept was kind of saying that it's going to be more on which is where we're going next after this, is going to be more on the smaller player, the SMEs, the specialist startups, who will not have a global skills, but, can come in like a niche player, and they will be the one to really drive this. So it's a way of, why I said it's a bit controversial, and this is my own opinion generally. Why I said it's a bit controversial is it a fact that, or is it a case that the bigger players are trying to say, look, we produce at scale. We really, really can be 100%, clean, natural, sustainable. And we will depend on those who are coming, at niche level to do more of that. I just throw that out to you.
So I've heard this before, and it doesn't just apply to the beauty industry, it also applies to the food industry, because when you look at food, if everything was organic, because of the amount of land that we have available to farm, it wouldn't be sustainable. So I think it's difficult, because this is a growing industry, as we've already mentioned. So, and it will continue to grow at a scale. And whilst you have all the big multinational companies who are producing volumes, you've also got smaller indie beauty brands who are becoming more and more powerful as well. And some of those indie beauty brands over the past few years have, grown at a rapid pace as well. So you've got brands like Drunk Elephant, which was recently bought out by Shiseido, but that's a huge brand that has grown very quickly. So I think what we also seeing in the beauty industry is the use of less ingredients. So that's the other thing. And also looking at how we farm land differently. So that's something else that we're looking at. So it's a balance between beauty, because there is actually more of a finer line between beauty and food as well, because we're using a lot of the ingredients that are used in the food industry and the beauty industry. And so it is, I think it's a challenge that we're going to have to see how we overcome this challenge, because if we do want more natural organic ingredients, the way in which it's farmed means we're going to be using more farmland as well.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay, I'll leave it there. I'll leave, because obviously, we cannot, overemphasize the importance of sustainability in any business practice today. And the fact that the whole industries and the key players are all gearing towards making this happen. We won't get there today. We won't get there tomorrow, but we'll get there at some point. The fact that they are leading this makes it all quite interesting. There's hope that, yeah. So, but let's talk about something else. Innovation and entrepreneurship, which is definitely, these are two topics that are very dear to my heart. I do believe that, larger organizations, the multinationals, can be entrepreneurial, whether you want to call it entrepreneurship, as a way of innovating and all of that. If we look at the beauty industry today, what's your opinion as far as innovation is concerned? Will you say it's been driven more by the emergence of entrepreneurs, SMEs, niche players, or more of entrepreneurship, happening in the larger, organization? Who's doing more, basically, in terms of driving innovation in that industry?
Interesting question to ask. So first of all, with entrepreneurship, it's I think it's very important for these big multinational companies to encourage that within their own organization. There are, and I think this is going to become more and more of something we see in the future. So there are a lot of people starting up their own business as an independent SME or indie beauty brand, but equally there are people who are part of a large organization who might want to start up their own business, but for some reason don't, but would like to be part of a bigger business that is seen to be bringing forward innovation and to be part of that team that brings forward the innovation. So in the beauty industry, there are companies like L'Oreal and Estee Lauder who are encouraging this within their own organizations. There are also, what they're also doing, a lot of these bigger companies, is they have incubators or they have accelerator hubs within their organization to encourage, some of them to encourage people within their organization who want to bring forward their own ideas, but also to encourage people who are not part of the organization to provide them with the guidance and the network and the skill sets that they might be lacking as a small indie beauty brand to really scale up their business. So there's that side of it. Then there are the indie beauty brands themselves who are going out there and driving innovation. And I think so there's different elements to this. So there's the entrepreneurship as the indie beauty brand, but there's the entrepreneurship as what they're doing within the organization, but also what they're doing together with these indie beauty brands to drive innovation. So it's difficult to say who's driving the most innovation because they're going about it in different ways. But I think they're both probably equally strong in terms of how they're going about it.
So, I mean, if we look at the last 5-10 years, and because there are two, you at the beginning you mentioned the fact that trends and evolution is being driven more by consumerism, which is fantastic, and the fact that the players are much more responding, and leading the consumer. Is also they anticipate and then they respond rather than try to give product that the consumer are not going to use, or just something coming out of the lab, so which well, if we think of that and look at the numbers of the sheer number of independent brands that's also been coming into the market, and from your own experience as a consultant as well, I tend to want to say that the independents are doing a bit more because than, and again, because they are coming in from a niche perspective most time.
So there's two sides, as I say, there's two sides. So there's the big multinationals and all the innovation they're driving as a company themselves, but then it's also the support that they're giving to these indie beauty brands, which they're doing jointly. So you've obviously got L'Oreal's got their own accelerator hub. You've got Sephora that have an accelerator hub. You've got a number of these big companies, all of whom are now starting up some form of accelerator hub. So they, when I look at that, I think although the idea comes from the indie beauty brand, the end result comes from the two merging together and driving the success of those indie beauty brands. But yes, the scale of indie beauty brands that have emerged over the last few years has been phenomenal, as we've spoken about earlier. So that in some ways, perhaps they are the ones driving this, but they also, a lot of their success is coming by working together with industry, I think, as well.
And in your own opinion, as as an expert in the industry, how do you think innovation should be driven?
Well, actually, what's changed as well, Topi, with innovation, because I've always, as you know, worked for big companies. So when we did innovation, it was done working as a large organization and going through a very detailed process and working together with the supplier base. What's interesting, and this is what I said earlier, is how the power has shifted from these big companies to consumers, so from brands to consumers. So the innovation that is coming through from indie beauty brands, when done in the right way, is they are turning to consumers to drive the innovation, which is exactly how it should be, because what we need to understand is what people want and need, and then we need to give it to them in a way that makes sense. So what a lot of these people are doing is building up communities through social media, and then using those communities to feed into the product development process, so that those consumers are essentially becoming part of your whole innovation process. And also that builds the strength of your relationships with your community as well, because they are then happy to innovate with you. So they are becoming part of that whole process and feel like they have a say and a voice in the matter.
It's a wrap on this edition of Marketing Etc. Remember to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and on YouTube to be notified of new editions as they come on.